Hey, welcome to another little how-to video. In this edition, we're going to talk about how to make the snowmobile fit you. So I've got a little advice for you. We're going to compare the new snowmobiles to the old snowmobiles and try to help you figure out just how exactly a snowmobile can fit. All right, stay tuned. All right, what we're going to talk about today is things that you can do to adjust the handlebars to make them fit better. It depends on the snowmobile that you have. Sometimes there are some adjustments. There's some adjustments on here that you won't have on some of the older snowmobiles, but a lot of the same principles work. Maybe there are other things you don't realize you can do, or maybe that would benefit you because you didn't think of. So that's what we're going to talk about today. All right, let's start on this side. You can see the brake lever here, and the way I've got my brake lever set, it's set up so that if I'm sitting on the snowmobile, the brake lever is down a little bit, but it's not down too far. What I've run into is, if I'm riding and I want to be able to switch between having my hand fully grasping the handlebar or also holding onto the brake, there's a sweet spot here. There's a transition, and what I found is that depending on whether I'm wearing mittens or gloves, sometimes it's a little hard. Your fingers get blocked here, and so what I typically do is I rotate this whole, actually on this snowmobile, it's there's a bracket here. So this, on some snowmobiles, and I'll show you that in a minute, this is all one unit, but there's actually two units here. There's a bracket here, and then this bunch of buttons can rotate separately, and they're all adjustable. They just take a Torx wrench or a hex wrench of some kind, loosen it up, and then you can pivot it. So what I've done is I've pivoted this down a little bit, so the brake lever is actually down a little bit lower than the way it came from the dealership. A lot of people set these brake levers up so they're pretty much horizontal. I don't like that. I like having the brake handle down a little bit. But if it's down too far, it becomes difficult to grab onto, and what you don't want to do is have to work too hard at it. So in this case, this seems to work pretty well for me. All right, on our old Polaris here, you can see that it's all, the whole thing, the buttons and the brake lever and the reservoir and everything are all one unit. It's all one unit together, and you have to adjust it all together. All right, the next thing, and I did a video on this. This happens to be a PowerMad adjustable riser. What is a riser exactly? Well, the handlebar post is right down here. This is the handlebar post. There's a set of bolts that this riser attaches to, and you can get different sizes and different types of risers, and all it does is it's a riser that raises or lowers the handlebars. Now the great thing about a riser though is that you can tilt it forward or back, and I don't know if you can see that very well or not, but so here's there's like a T post. The steering post is kind of a T at the top, and kind of like a bicycle where you're grabbing onto the pipe that runs horizontally. So what you can do is you can actually tilt this whole the whole thing back or forward depending on your riding style, and you can get different lengths of these. So in this case, it's an adjustable one, and like I said, I've got a video on that. But sometimes you can get fixed risers and for significantly less money. I'll tell you that this was a lot of money, but you can get adjustable one, or you can get fixed ones that will work just fine, and different heights. So let's say this is too low for you. Well, you can get one that's longer, or if it's too high, you can get one that's lower. The other thing is you can tilt the handlebars. So you can see that the handlebars there's a bend here on these. This handlebar has a bend at the tips here. Then there's a bend in the middle. So there's a little bit of a curve there. So you can roll the handlebars so that this bend is maybe pointed up a little bit or back a little bit, and just depending on your riding style. There's a set of bolts on top that clamp down on the handlebar itself, and then there's a set of bolts down here that clamp down on the steering post, and that's how this riser works. All right, some older snowmobiles like this one here don't have a riser. This one does have a clamp I didn't take it apart so you can see it, but in here there's a clamp, so you can still roll the handlebars forward or back because of this, this bend in here. You can adjust that, but there's no adjustable riser, so you can't make the steering column higher or shorter based on the design of this. Sometimes you can adapt it to give it a little bit more rise or not. Generally, the older ones, and I'm thinking, you know, before 2000, so anything made in the 1990s or older, generally they were not adjustable. You got what you got. So that's something to consider when you're buying a snowmobile is, do the handlebars fit you? All right, the other thing to consider on the handlebars is the throttle. And you can see on my handlebars here, the throttle is turned down quite a bit. And the reason for that is because that's where my thumb is. There's actually two things going on here. One is the thumb is actually heated. There's a heating element. You can see the little wires here. So I want my thumb on the throttle, not the web of my hand, because my thumb gets cold, not the web of my hand. So I want my thumb directly over that heating element. So I have it turned down because that's where my thumb is. But the other reason is because there's a kind of a secret to steering. And I mentioned this in my video about trail riding, that you kind of push and pull at the same time. Well, you can't really push with this side of the handlebars because the throttle's in the way. So if the throttle is up higher, so it's more horizontal, what you have a tendency to do is push with that as you're trying to steer. If you're turning left, it can be really difficult to hold the throttle and the steering at the handlebars at the same time. So what I do is I have the throttle set lower, so you can see if I'm sitting here, I'm kind of trying to hold the camera and show you at the same time. But this is about where I hold on to the handlebars when I'm riding, and you can see my thumb sits right there on top of the heating element, and then my knuckles are actually pushing up against the handlebar. So when I'm steering, I'm pushing with my knuckles. Kind of a study in contrast. So this has a little bit different seating position, and you're in a different spot. This handlebar tends to be lower on your body. So this handlebar is up quite a bit, and so I have my throttle turned down and my brake lever not turned down quite as far because of the way my hands are. This snowmobile is the exact opposite. The throttle isn't turned down as much, but the brake lever is. See how low the brake lever is on this one? And again, it's how you sit on it. You want to sit on the snowmobile and see what feels comfortable. And here's the key. So these things all take either, like I said, either a hex wrench or a Torx wrench of some kind. And that goes back forever and ever. I mean, I think before that it was a Phillips, but you'd have to go back into the 70s to get to that. But they all are adjustable, even back in the 70s, the old stuff. But what you want to do is, first of all, sit on it, get a fairly good feel for where it should be, and then go out and ride it. Because what you're going to find when you ride it is that those adjustments that you made might not be exactly where you want them to be, and you'll find that you need to make a few minor adjustments to that, or maybe you thought you had it right and it's completely wrong. And so you want to go out and ride it. Like I said, this one, the seating position is completely different. Like I said, it's not a difficult modification. If you sit on a snowmobile and you're like, this is not going to work, then please ask whoever snowmobile it is, please ask them to make adjustments, because they can make adjustments and they can adjust it back. It's like adjusting the seat on your car. So that adjusting your handlebars to fit you is important, and it makes a difference. It makes a difference whether your hands get cold. It makes a difference whether you can steer the snowmobile and control your speed. All of that based on your handlebar position, something that a lot of people don't consider. Hey, thanks for watching. As always, please give me a thumbs up if you like this video, and subscribe if you can. And I hope I see you on the trail.